Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Chakra Way Meditation Podcast. And I have a guest for you, slightly different to our normal type of guest, I feel today. And so I'm really excited to talk to Natty. Natty is a musician. He is from London, but currently in Jamaica. I'm trying not to be really jealous, but failing massively. But I'm excited to talk to Natty. Natty has written, produced a new album called The Divine Trinity, and yeah, I want to talk about it. So welcome, Natty. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good. It's
Mm.
exciting. It's exciting to talk to you. So tell me, where do we start? Because I know that your album is and the music that you do, you feel has real healing power, and you align yourself and your music with chakras. You are deeply into yeah, I mean, let's just start with the simple facts with the healing power of music. So tell me a little bit about when this, I suppose, enlightenment or awakening happened for you within your music. What came first, the music or the energy work, if you like?
The music definitely came first. Um, I've been making music since as long as I can remember, and I went through. I always wanted to be a producer. I produced. I was an engineer. I was a T-boy. Going right back to the days when I was working on other people's records in a recording studio. I was signed to Atlantic Records soon after that. Put out a couple of albums. And I think it was around 2016, 2017. I've always been a conscious musician. So I've always wrote music and lyrics with um, um, a conscious and aware of my surroundings. And also, I just don't want to offend my grandma. So it's always been, always been music with a purpose that is uplifting people, right?
Yeah.
However, I released the album called Release the Fear. And Release the Fear was my first conceptual piece, which started off with a song called I'm Alive, which is giving thanks. It's a song about giving thanks just for life itself.
Mm.
And I was on doing that tour, and two things happened. Firstly, there was a man who'd been in a wheelchair for 9 years. And at the show, I think it was in Gloucestershire, he got up and started dancing. Yeah.
Wow.
That's what the family told me. That's what I didn't see it myself, but that's what his because Ras Lowy, who was my tour manager, he just pushed through the merchandise queue because I normally sign and take pictures after my show. So I was signing and taking pictures, and he
Yeah.
just pushed through. He was almost frothing at the mouth. His eyes were bulging out of his head. He couldn't believe what he'd seen, right? And I was like, "What are you doing? Just like there's people here. Have some respect."
Yeah.
And he just come through, and he introduced me to this family. We stayed in touch for a while, and the man of the family, like their father, had been in a wheelchair for 9 years, and he felt the need to start dancing, and he got up and just started dancing. And then fast forward a week later, I'm in Nottingham,
Mm.
and the same song I was speaking to you about, I'm Alive. Sorry, this is a truck going past.
It's okay,
That
go
was
ahead.
that was yeah. The same song I was speaking about, I'm Alive. There was a woman who spoke to me about that song after my Nottingham show, and she told me that she'd sorted out all her finances and figured everything out, and she was supposed to commit suicide on this day. And she heard that song and decided she wanted to give life one more go. And this
Wow.
happened in the space of a week to me, right? And before that, I was a happy-go-lucky musician trying to do the right thing, but that's changed something in me. So I just started looking at music like totally different. I started exploring. I started off with a book called Sound Medicine, which was, I forget the name of the woman, it will come to me. But I started off with that book and I just started exploring the healing elements of sound and
Mm.
looking at cymatics and looking at frequency healing, looking at what um, different chakras resonate at different frequencies, looking at the cells in the body, how music affects water. how much water we have in our cells, etc., etc. And then so I just took a deep dive around, like I say, straight off of the back of that tour, which led, which was the beginning of this album.
Right.
And so this album is like a realization of, I guess, traditional songwriting where like I'm more, I like to write songs like Sting is a good example of someone who I'm into, where you go places. So you might
Mm.
verse, bridge, chorus, breakdown, coda, middle eight. I like it when there's plenty for the consumer or the listener or the feeler to get into, right? But now I started getting into this place where we now know that we have the ability to heal, and that just shifted my intentions, it shifted my lyric writing, it shifted my whole process in terms of producing music.
God, I mean, this is so fascinating. I mean, I've just scribbled down a couple of words like intention and frequency are just so powerful in terms of healing and in terms of whatever anybody puts their talent and their passion into. So what was it that turned you? I mean, was it when you started looking at frequency and the power of music? Was it that introduced you to the chakras system and or
No, I'd known about that
known
a
about that?
while,
Yeah.
and I was into yoga. I was, let me say, I was always a seeker.
Yeah.
So even before that, like I would, for example, if we're touring in South Africa, I stayed a few extra days and I went to go and visit Credo Mutwa before he passed away.
Mm.
Who lives in, if you know him or if you don't know him, he's a shaman from the Sangoma faith, and he lived in the desert in uh, which part of South Africa was it? Anyway, I went to go and that's an example. So
Mm.
same thing. I'm in India. I take time and I go up to the Himalayas. Same thing when I went to South America. I went deep into the Amazon and sat
Mm.
with the shaman of the area, the grand shaman of the area, who introduced me to plant medicine, something called Yopo. And so I stayed with him for like a week or two. So I've always been like a deep seeker, just not just for my own personal journey, but because I always understood the power I have as a musician, especially on stage in certain dimensions where with great power comes great responsibility. And because there was a lot of people who'd be asking me things, they'd look to my albums for guidance. They'd sometimes look to me for guidance. So I'd always try and be bettering myself. So there are lots of spiritual paths that I was trying to walk. I was just filling up my cup with as much as I could take.
And
So
where does
that
all
that led
this
me to where I am. Sorry, go on.
where does all that come from? I mean, like you already mentioned
Oh,
your
I
grandma.
don't.
Is this something that's just because it always fascinates me that, people who, like yourself, are deeply spiritual and have this kind of innate knowing that there is more, that they're already, it's kind of like they don't have to really, they obviously seek it, but you just kind of know that there is more to life than what is placed in front of you, more to life than the majority people walking down the street kind of think about on a daily basis. So, like, it always fascinates me. If you were brought up in that sort of environment where it was, the conversations were like, expansive, um, or not, because when it's the case that there's not much kind of obvious foundation there, that to me feels even more exciting because that comes very much from your soul, from your past lives, your
Honestly, like the way that I grew up was so, I guess, I mean, my mum was a teacher, um, her and
and
my father. It
you're
was
from
it was
South
all just,
London, right? You're from South London?
so I'm from North London.
Oh, North London, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I grew up in North London. I mean, I was into the basic material stuff that normal teenagers are into. Um, I guess there was one thing that, like, my mother is from Lesotho, right? And so my mother being from Lesotho and in the hills of Lesotho, and like a 20-second history of Lesotho is basically it's the piece inside South Africa that was
Yes.
never taken over by either the English or the Boers. Like they fought many, many battles to keep that piece of land. It's a mountainous terrain. And so what happened was while the whole world was, I guess, modernizing, it stayed in a little bit of a time warp. So I'll give you a brief that my auntie was, there was a knock at the door when my auntie was born. This is before the days of internet, no phones, nothing. And it was the same Sangoma people I was telling you about with Credo Mutsu. They come to take her because they knew she was being born. And they walked for miles and miles and miles to come and take my auntie because they knew that she had the gift. Basically the day after she was born. My grandparents said no because my grandfather was a pastor. And there was many things that happened after that to the family, and it could have been maybe because of that. I don't know. But what I'm saying to you is that I know my mother was a seer, and she was also a seer as well. Those two in the family. And even though my mother raised me with more Christian and traditional values, and we absorbed, like a lot of people with colonial history, we absorbed the colonial way of thinking much even more so than my mum speaks better English than most upper middle class white people do. You understand what I'm trying to say, right? So it was like, we must follow the rules. And that's kind
Yeah.
of how I grew up. So part of me growing up like that, I know there was something spiritual in me, but also at the same time, I needed to break free as well.
Yeah. It's a fascinating. I always find people's sort of origin stories, if you like, really interesting because we are so formed by our formative lives and the belief systems and our values in ourselves and our belief in ourselves as well. And what I'm sort of feeling from you is that like you have this like sense of responsibility about what you do because it really affects people. Um, so what is it? Is there any sort of special magic ingredient that you put in your music, or is it just you doing your music from your heart, your soul, and with the intention of its power that you think? I'm trying to sort of.
No, good question. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, good
Mhm.
question. Yes, there is some magic ingredients.
Oh, okay.
Um, so as well as the intention, um, I will create drone effects, and these drones will be very low in the mix. Um, and these drone effects now sometimes they're just nature. So like I said, I moved to Jamaica. Well, I didn't. I think we said off air, but I live in partially in Jamaica, partially in the UK, right?
Yeah.
And so a drone, for example, is crickets and tree frogs.
Ah, the best.
Right,
Vibrations. Frog vibrations are the best. And
right.
people don't think that vibration is natural. It's just that, yeah, yeah, they're beautiful vibrations indeed. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'll put them into the mix. I purchased some singing bowls from Tibet. I purchased 7 of them, all with um, I don't know if you know, but there's a lot of different types of singing bowls, but these specific ones made with 7 sacred metals
Mm.
that I went specifically to get. It was anyway. So what I'm saying to you is, there's
They
many
sound good.
frequencies within just the one bowl itself. Um, yeah, and then so I, I don't know if your listeners can see, but what I'll
Well,
do.
yes, so then the videos will come out for sure. So let's have.
Okay, so for example, I will place like this pyramid, and so this will be on a table,
Yeah.
and I'll place the singing bowl above it, and
Hmm.
then the microphone will be above that,
Yeah.
and I'll play that, and that will be another example of a drone that will go throughout the song that you don't even know that you're listening to.
Yeah.
And so this is just 2 examples of. So the first time I really spoke about it in so much depth, but
Fascinating.
um, these are examples of some things that I will do, and then other things I will do will be like small little chants, like I'll make music with my voice as well.
Yeah.
And then sometimes like there's one or two songs that I will tune a certain way as well to just be more in accordance with natural tunings than the general 440, which we're taught to believe.
Mm. Because in my sort of learning about frequency, very early on, I came across the solfeggio frequencies, which are various frequencies that are said to resonate with the different chakras.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
if you go searching for solfeggio frequencies, you can find tons on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever.
Right.
And they're really lovely. If you find a nice one, you can just get the solid drone, which is quite full on just to listen to. Probably quite good to sleep to. But usually people have the drone and then they have a little bit of what I call massage music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's a bit, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It's sort of good music to work to if you really need to focus. But what I find fascinating about this, and there is a frequency, and I think it's 285 that I
Yes,
can't
it.
listen. I can't bear listening to. I find it so uncomfortable.
Oh, why is that?
I don't know. It just sounds utterly sinister to my ears. It
Huh.
sounds like doom and kind of just all the other frequencies I'm absolutely fine with, but that one just creeps me out. I've talked to other people about this and they've said
Mm.
that's really weird. I wonder why that is because other people can clearly listen to it, but for me I feel a sort of oof, yeah, just scary is the best way I can put it. It's like the sort of um the scary music that comes on when the baddie's about to jump out of the in a movie or something. It's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of got that vibe for me. So how do you kind of tune to, you've obviously got these drones which are nature, which has got to be one of the best, the frogs and the crickets and so on. You've got
Yeah.
these incredible Tibetan singing bowls, which are beautiful. Do you tune to a specific frequency or do you with a specific aim in mind? Because I
Sometimes.
I know that some of your, this in your album, The Divine Trinity, you've got songs in it which speak to all the chakras or individually. Tell,
Correct.
tell me a little bit about that.
So we've done the Divine Trinity is a set of three Trinities. Starting with in order, child, woman, man would be the first set of Trinity, would be the first Trinity.
Mhm.
The second Trinity being mind, heart, soul slash spirit. And then the third Trinity is earth, water, and air. There are now within these three Trinities, and the reason why it's put together like this as well is because the three Trinities make up the nine and the ninth letter of the alphabet meaning I. And within the Rastafarian faith, I is an extremely powerful word. We don't even use the word you. We don't say them. We don't say he, she. We just use I. So if I'm speaking about the I, I'm speaking about you. Or the I meaning the I's them, meaning them. Because essentially, within this frequency of overstanding and speaking to one another, we see the I within the I self, if that makes sense. Right?
Yeah.
And this I is not just the letter I, but it's also the I with which we communicate, i.e., third eye, because another thing within the word sound power is a huge how would you say, pillar of the Rastafarian faith, right? Which is where this all comes from as well. If you want to go right back into where my specific path into sound and the power of it, word, sound, power. So within the I, we have all of this. So a song within a lyric within one of the songs which is on the album, which is called "Move Like Water," is the entire universe is all inside of you.
Mm.
So that being said, all of these different trinities make up I and the I. And so within the I, we now get to the chakra system. where if we start at the root, which is when man, woman come together and make child. And so I have a song called Mountains, which is one of the songs we put out, where again I'll put message like I'm wearing red, red identifying with the root chakra within the song about, which is a song written for my children, saying, meet me up in the mountains where there's no more roads and you feel the souls of the ancient trees calling out to you and me, etc., etc. It goes on. And then you have a song called Woman, Spirit Woman and Fireman, where we get to the solar plexus now, right? And so on. And then we have a song called Open Up Your Heart, which comes in after that. So it moves up to the heart chakra. We have another song called Free Your Mind, and we move further up into the pineal gland. And then once we get to the end of the song, which is the end of the album, I'll fast forward to, which is Spirit of the Wind, we're into a place where we're in spirit essence. Exactly. And so the journey of the album, not only is it, there's about 2 or 3 different concepts within the concept of the Divine Trinity, which essentially is a makeup of yourself and myself. And a little tad bit is Haile Selassie means the power of the Trinity. But depending on how you look at the word Trinity, it's all up to you. But that's from putting this album together over the past 7 years. That's the thinking, that's the foundations behind it, and that is all what has gone into this project.
And it is a really gorgeous album. You kindly sent me an access to it, and I listened to the whole thing. I've actually listened to it quite a lot because I love your sound. I love the reggae, but it just feels good. It just feels really beautiful and authentic. And I am really now really appreciating the Trinity. What you've told me about the thought that's gone into it is so spectacular. And I feel like this it's really interesting to hear you talk about the Rastafarian, faith as well, because I didn't know that about the word and the letter I. And it speaks so much to that, that wholeness, that oneness, that belonging of all life, that constant. We are all just one. We are all just in this present moment, just living as one thing. Globally, universally, even, and to connect that through to the third eye and that knowing, which is obviously so close to that basis or that sort of fundamental feeling of belonging and oneness. So that gives it even more deeper meaning, much more depth. I love
think when you go and listen to it again, the words will start to piece together, because the one thing I didn't want to do is I didn't want to beat people over the head with my spirituality or with my thought process. So I want them to enjoy the songs. And first and foremost, here's some songs, please enjoy them. But for those of you who are willing to go deeper or who want to go deeper, there's this and there's this and there's this. And there's levels to your... Like I told my friend, all right, cool, my daughter is on track too. I just wrote a Maya May, but that's my daughter. And he went back and he played it again and he started crying because of his relationship with his daughter. And so there's just levels to unpack if you so choose. If you just want to skim the surface, no problem.
But I mean, there's the power of music. I mean, it sounds such a trite and stupid thing to say, but music really is so fundamental to us as human beings. Ever since we could, pull a animal skin over a drum skin, we've been making music.
Exactly.
A tree trunk or whatever. Thank you. It's a really, really important part of being a human being, music. And I don't know whether that's because of the communal aspect of it, because of the spiritual aspect of it, because of the vibration frequency aspect of it. I don't know, but it is such an innate part of us that when it touches us deeply, we all have that song that we can listen to that we want make us want to cry, or that will always lift our spirits. And it's completely different for everybody. Some people, it's Beethoven that will really do it for them, and other
Hmm.
people, it's the Spice Girls. Like, there's no, you just don't, it's never, but that's what's so wonderful, is that there is this incredible breadth of music out there that will speak to us, it will speak to our soul. And where that comes from is really fascinating. So for you, it's always been reggae music, I'm presuming.
No, no, I
No?
wouldn't. No, no, I would even say that one of the problems we're going through at the moment is because my reggae is not reggae enough.
Oh,
And so,
really?
and so because of that fact, I've kind of had it my whole life as a professional musician. I remember when I was first getting signed, and there was all this music industry in the room. So it was like this big deal gig, right? So these people wanted to sign me, these people. And I started playing this song, two songs in, this man gets in, stands up in the middle of this quiet, you could hear a pin drop. And he
Yeah.
just says, "This isn't effing reggae." I'm not gonna swear, but it's like, "This isn't fucking reggae." And he just stormed out because he wanted
Okay.
like what, and it's just, and I've had it when I've traveled and I've been to like different reggae festivals, and I've had people say to me, "Oh, but you're not real reggae, are you?" I'm like, well, I'm not trying to be anything. I'm just trying to make music. And I think because of my faith, um, because of maybe how I look, and because I do incorporate a lot of elements of reggae into the sound, but at the same time, there is just as much music from Zimbabwe, um, which has influenced my life probably as much in terms of just the guitar play, and all of the lead guitar work you might see is very much influenced by that. Like my drummer, I'm like, all right, cool, let's go to Cuba. Okay, let's go to like a Russian marching band. All right, cool. Now let's go back to a one drop reggae style. We have these conversations all the time as musicians.
Yeah.
And so for me, there's only two genres of music: the music you vibe with and the music you don't.
Yeah. Well, that is the absolute truth.
And
Yeah.
so that's right. And so, yeah, to answer your question, I grew up on like top five albums. I don't know if I can name them, but I know that Miles Davis would be in there, and
Mm.
probably other artists like Umu Sangari, Fela Kuti, Paul Simon. Like as much as your reggae stuff, which like Bob Marley, Culture, Peter Tosh, them kind of stuff as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is fascinating. I have so much admiration and adoration for people who are musically talented, because music is super important to my life. Like, I can't, I'm always listening to music. But it's as like you say, it's a very eclectic mix, and it very much depends on my mood and what I feel like. And sometimes I'm in a 70s disco mood, and sometimes I'm in a completely, something else mood, who knows. But so, Natty, um what I want to know about this album, I suppose, is um what is does it have a core message? Does it have or is it something that you just want people to know about because you feel that it has got this energy about it that is going to be, I don't know, is it going to move people forward? Is it going to help them heal? What are you envisaging for this, for your music? What is your
I
intention? I mean, that's really what I suppose I'm getting at. Yeah.
I like to limit my expectations on and my visions and my desires for whatever creations might pass through me, just because um, I believe that whatever I get from it, maybe someone else might not get from it, and that's okay. It just might be a catchy hook for them, or it might be something they can dance to. But I personally receive healing through creating. And so when the music is being made, I perceive the ability it has an ability to heal, but that might not necessarily be my intention, because I'd rather set the intentions to heal within the music. But if it doesn't heal, that's also fine. If it
Mm.
just goes and it gets played and it's um, becomes a radio song, or it becomes someone's favorite song for driving to, there's so many different layers and levels to the words like healing and bringing joy. And one person's joy might be another person's pain, but then what's wrong with pain? Surely we can get joy when we get through the pain as well. So there's so much going on in the world that all I can say to people is that I believe no matter what level you tune into the album, you will receive something from it. And that something will benefit your life somehow. And that's all I can say. Or that's what I would want.
Mm.
Anything beyond that, whether it be healing, joy, redemption, salvation, anything which music has the power to do,
Yeah.
That's for the universe and for the Most High to decide.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I mean, that is very much leaving it to the universe, and everybody's, as it is such a personal thing, music, people respond to all music differently, but also it's that thing about letting it out into the universe. And it's like when you're asking for something, you can ask the universe to, find you abundance or fulfillment or whatever. And the how is none of your business. So
Right.
kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like, you put it out there, and how it hits you, how it affects you is just going to be unique to you in that moment, And music's so um it's so timely, like a song can hit you in a moment where you're feeling vulnerable, or you're feeling strong, or you're feeling powerful, or you're feeling weak. Like whatever you're feeling, that song is going to hit you differently, and it can lift you up, or it can, calm you down, or it can soothe your worried soul. There's so many different ways that the same song can hit you when you listen to it, even, for the 19th time, it'll hit you differently. And I feel like your music has the power to do that. So I'm
One thing
excited.
I would add, sorry
Yeah,
to
go on.
cut you. One thing I would
Oh,
add is that when you, and this kind of answers maybe two of your previous questions enrolled with following on from this, is that the way that we record music. So the way that music gets recorded, I used to be a recording engineer, and one of the things that I used to work with some amazing producers. An old guy called Glyn Johns showed me some very important stuff about phasing and microphones. So the more microphones you have, more opportunity for phasing, and that cancels out certain frequencies. And when you get lots and lots of cancelled out frequencies together, it can create almost like a void within the music, which is not a great thing. So that plus this modern way of recording. So if you park that idea for one side and then add on to the idea of when you have one microphone and you keep recording, same thing over and over again, whether it be right now I'm going to record bass, now I'm going to record 20 vocals. Remember, I was an engineer. I remember looking at a session with 90 vocals one time, 90 vocal tracks to mix,
wow.
and that was just the vocals, right? And you put all of this, and it's all recorded one at a time. So you get all of this room noise and white noise times 90, right? Which you then have to subliminally get through as a listener. Couple
Yeah.
that with all of these different phasing mic positions. And so there's all of this background to music, which, for want of a better term, I don't want to sound like my father or my grandfather who's complaining about modern stuff, but there's a thing within modern recordings
Mm.
which we're losing, where there's an authentic feeling that happened. Like when as soon as you play a Bob Marley song or a,
Ugh.
a
Yeah.
Pink Floyd song or something which was recorded to take with minimal microphones and not as many overdubs, there's just a different subliminal feeling that happens.
Mm. Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
lucky in terms of I worked in one of the top recording studios in London for like 4 years. And so to get to observe this and apply this again to the music. So when I'm recording, I try and do as much as I can with the band using minimal microphone techniques. So we get the more fullness of the sound. And then when I'm doing overdubs, I just try and get it right once. And, so there's all of this stuff that I've come to understand that is not maybe spoken about as much within music, but how you produce music can have a great effect on your feeling that you leave with. And understanding this, like I say, is a big part of creating the type of music that I do.
It sounds like a very authentic way of creating music, which has to come through in the audio experience of it and in the energy of it, I'm sure.
I feel like that type of music, that authenticity word that you use there leads to many different of the things that I mentioned before, like revelations, salvation, joy, spiritual presence, lots of these things, which can sometimes get a little bit lost within the head top experience of a lot of maybe more computer-based music.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much potential for cleverness and out clevering yourself with clever little AI techniques and the gadgets and computers and phasing. And like even on this laptop that I'm recording this on now, I've got GarageBand. Like I can, where I've edit my podcast, but there's any number of things that I can do to sort of phase it in and out, and the repeats and the I don't know what the hell it does really, but I can see that even in the most basic of recording systems, like there's a million ways to mess around with the sound.
I wanted to put a stamp on my album saying there has been no auto-tune used on this album.
I feel like the people who find you will know that. I feel like that's the authenticity just kind of shines out. So Natty, where's it? Are you on Spotify? Or do you not do that? Because that's
I'm on Spotify. I was actually speaking about Spotify today because one of my team showed me about all the money that's swimming around with the Spotify directors and not getting back to the musicians. Initially, I was like, I don't want to go on Spotify, but eventually I joined the herd. And yeah, I still love CDs and vinyl. And I find that was also not only because it feeds my family better, because I'm actually making money from it, but also because there is something special about owning the CD that has been created for you to own. And you go out, you purchase it, and then you have it, and then you can draw for it anytime you want. And what if the Spotify server goes down? Then what happens to your music
exactly
collection?
all the music in the world just disappears. I agree with you. I'm totally with you. Like my son is an avid vinyl collector. He works in a record store. He's worked at all sorts of things music wise, but he's got a huge vinyl collection, and the tactile quality of it is I totally understand.
You got a good one there.
I do.
Keep him close. Keep him close.
I try, but he keeps running off.
Yeah.
So are you touring? Are you back in the UK?
Yes. So
or in America? Because I've got a lot of listeners in America. They might all be like, oh, well, okay, can I go see Natty in America?
It's been a long time since I've toured in America, I did an amazing tour with Ziggy Marley a few years back, and I haven't been back since. I'd love to tour in America again. Hopefully we can get that on the cards. I just need to try and maybe even get some release out there. But we're touring in the UK in early March, last week of February, first week of March. Got doing some dates around the UK, and then doing some festival shows around Europe and UK in the summer. So just trying to keep pushing the music out there and tuning into the frequencies.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, listen, I will put a link to all of that stuff wherever, and I'll ask you off air, but I'll get some links to put in the show notes about how people can get hold of your beautiful music and make the most of it.
Yeah, appreciate that.
No, well, it's been a real delight talking to you, Natty. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. I very much enjoyed the reasoning and look forward again soon.